What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Danny the Bull, back with another live stream. It's been a minute since I've done a proper live stream market talk and, thoughts on altcoins and things like that. I've been a little busy, and it's been this choppy sideways market is kind of boring, to be quite honest. But I have a bunch of thoughts, obviously. We'll talk about where I think, what my thoughts on the market. Maybe have a little guest hop through if he's around for 15 minutes to give his thoughts on the market. Talk about altcoins in general, specific ones. People ask, have my thoughts changed on Medicaid, on TECTIM, on Debbie, and all these things. So we'll talk about any alts that you want to talk about. As always, ask your questions, and let's get into it. See who we got in the house. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Dino is first. What's good, Dino Dragon in the house? Ecomi Skywalker we got here. MBE it will start probably November after U.S. elections. There's a big correlation if it repeats every time. Yeah, we're going to talk about that and market cycles. I do think that this cycle is playing out as previous cycles. So Season 3 OG in the house. What's good? Jordan Riz out of the bathtub. What's going on, homie? P Hoddle in the house. Let's go. G Money. Good to see you, brother. It's good to see some of these names show up. So let me share my screen and we'll get going. Let me just give me a second here. Let me get situated. It's been a minute. I just rushed to get on because I was eating dinner. All right. One more second. Here we go. Got my screens set up. So, Bitcoin, nothing to see here. Still range bound and boring, right? This market is boring and it feels like a bearish market. And I hear people referring to it as a bear market. It's not a bear market. We're in a bull market, right? The overall trend on Bitcoin has been up. It's up and to the right. And we're just in this long, choppy, rangy period, which is quite normal. We've been in it since really February when we broke out into this upper, broke through 50. So it's been a little bit of time. I feel like this market got a little ahead of itself, right, because of the ETF launch in January. And we had a premature alt season. We've had this big correction on alts, which again, the last time I streamed, which is about 6 weeks ago, I talked about how that also is nothing new, right? Last cycle, alts saw 70, 80% retracement, some of the ones that went on to be the biggest winners. So there's nothing new here. It just feels like things are down because the alts are down, but that's what happens to alts when Bitcoin, is in this range. Alts bleed against Bitcoin. And we got a little, myself included, again, the market, it seemed to have been kickstarted early because Bitcoin never hit a new all-time high before the halving, and it did this time. And then you think, well, people are going to front run the halving now, and maybe there was one train of thought that said this market tops out end of the year, right? But that's not what's happening. What's happening is that the cycle's repeating itself from previous cycles. And I always like to point out direct capital stuff. Let me see. Right, and typically, after the halving, it takes about 160, 180 days for Bitcoin to break out, and we're at about 120, right? So you see this red, this red shaded area. That's where historically Bitcoin has gone sideways after the halving. The halving isn't some magical event where, it's the price shoots up directly afterwards. Usually it runs up into the halving, right? And then consolidates, goes down a little and breathes. And that's exactly what happened last cycle. If you look over here, 23 bars, 161 days of sideways action. And then the big move up, right, which topped out about, I want to say 220 days after having, and we had kind of double top last cycle. But, that would put us in line with about September, October, if history repeats itself, for Bitcoin to break out of this consolidation range and go up into this green shaded area, which is kind of in line with what MVE said, right, in terms of U.S. elections and things like that. I think we're looking at coming up, you've got rate cuts in September, and I think that will likely be the catalyst that maybe moves this market forward. Because make no mistake, we are in a bull market, right? It's evidence in the stock market. Wall Street heads for best week of the year, right, as the slowdown fears recede. So we had recession fears. We had the war mongering fears, right? The war in Israel and things like this. All this fear take Bitcoin down to 49K recently, but that's all that was driving it, was fear. As you see, Wall Street bounced back quickly, and NASDAQ and S&P erased their losses, their August losses already. All right, so we're in a macro bull market, and there are signs all over the place that, we're accelerating adoption and things are moving forward. MetaMask started a rollout of blockchain-based debit card developed with MasterCard. That was announced yesterday. There was, where is it? I didn't pull it up. Apple. Let me pull up that. Apple Tap to Pay opened up its, here, Apple is finally going to open up iPhone Tap to Pay, right, which opens the door for crypto payments, right, which is huge, a huge step towards adoption, is, leveraging Apple Pay and, being able to use crypto from your iPhone, right? So that news broke. All of these bullish catalysts, a Bitcoin ETF, an Ethereum ETF, right? S&P at all-time high, NASDAQ at an all-time high. And then looking at, macroeconomic stuff, it feels like, we should be headed towards a recession, but we're not yet, right? Maybe at some point down the line that happens, but as of now, the economy is moving along, and inflation data came in at 2.9%, which is a little lower than expected, right? It came in a little better than expected, and it's getting closer to the 2% target that Fed Powell has on inflation in order to, reduce rates, and we think that's going to happen in September. All right, so in September, it's now not a matter of if, it seems a matter of by how much. Will it be a 0.25 reduction or half a point reduction? But they're going to reduce interest rates. It's going to loosen up the economy and the ability to borrow from people, right? Credit cards come down, businesses can borrow. And then it's also a step towards money printing. And it's a signal towards the market that, we're heading back into this stimulation period, right? Where the market gets stimulated, because right now the market and the economy, it's the opposite of stimulation, right? They've been kind of tightening, and they call it tightening, right? They tighten and to try to get a hold of inflation. And now that inflation's coming down, we should see a strong fourth quarter for Bitcoin, and then consequently for alts. And so the thesis has not changed. Sometimes the timeline is off because you can't predict the market, right? It's kind of like, it's analogous to an ocean, right? It's a wild breathing organism that can't be tamed or controlled. But if you're right long term, if the long term thesis is correct, then you don't get shaken out of the market. Feel like market makers, they like, traders make money, and the big money makes money up and down, right? Liquidating longs and shorts. And so they'll move the market up and down to create max pain in both directions. But ultimately, it's going to break above resistance and get into price discovery. And then in a short amount of time, there are violent moves up. And I always say, if you're in crypto for those violent moves to the upside. But in order to have those violent moves to the upside, you need to tolerate the violent moves down. And they're here, right? And I make mistakes along the way. And I had some great entries 6-8 months ago, right? I got RIO at 10 cents. I bought, Miria super cheap. I also bought Devi high, right? So does it change my long-term thesis? It does not. And so that's, my outlook on this market and where I think it's going. We'll talk alts, get into your comments. I know Ron is here. I gave Ron the link if he wants to shoot up here. Come on up, Ron, if you're around and available for 10 or 15 minutes to talk about your views on the market. We can get into your comments and whatnot. Where was I? FA, first appearance in the house. What's good, man? Thanks, brother. It's good to be back. What are the 3 alts you have the highest level of conviction in with a corresponding realistic price prediction? NFA. It is NFA. The 3 alts, I love RIO. So let me pull RIO up. And RIO has held up relatively well, and that's something that you like to see. I mean, it looks like it's down about, I would say, 60-70%, but compared to some that are down 90%, RIO has held up relatively well. And I like to see that. It's got strength on chart. Many of us are buying this 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents. It's still above that, right? And RWA, real world assets, are going to be a major narrative this cycle, and you want to be positioned in it. So this is my RWA play, a $50 million market cap right now. I can see it getting to $1 billion. I don't do price predictions, but can I see this becoming $1 billion asset? Absolutely. It had a $3 and change local top, right, during the last move up. I think it'll blow past that in the next move up. And I said prior to this big move up over here, I was on stream somewhere in this range. And I said, man, if, BlackRock, Larry Fink just comes out and talks about institutionalization of, tokenizing everything, this, the whole asset sector is going to run. And that's exactly what happened. Larry Fink got on the news and talked about how they were building something on Ethereum for tokenization of, bonds and things like that. And then that's that strong move up. That's not going away, right? That narrative, even though the technology I don't think is ready yet, it's kind of like how the metaverse narrative ran. The narrative will front run the technology or the ability to get things done. So, regulatory wise, we're not near a place where real estate will be tokenized yet, but the idea of it is going to run this cycle. So RIO is one of my big bags. I think it's pretty much my biggest utility token bag. So that's one. I still like Tectum a lot, which is beaten down. And my initial entry on this was $9. I thought it was a genius. And I was a genius when it went all the way up to $45 a week later, right? Hard correction here. Back testing this, $4 or $5 range area. Keep in mind that this started at $1 back before this, so earlier in the year, this was like $1. So looking back, you look 90% down, but it's still up considerably from its lows of the cycle. $50 million market cap. I love a good layer one. I only see them building. They have catalysts ahead of them. Their blockchain will be rolling out. Soft note technology. They're getting more and more partners with that. So soft note is scalability of Bitcoin and to enable private Bitcoin transactions in stores, in retail, etc. They recently, I thought I had it. I don't know what happened to my maybe here it is. So they recently partnered with MintLayer. And I didn't read in too much about that, but they're still moving along and they've got their catalysts ahead of them. Right. So when this market turns, like we saw in the last, when the market was hot and Tectum broke the transactions per second record, right? You saw the price run up. You saw, the speculation run. They've got a bunch of catalysts ahead of them that are going to, catalyze price action, I think, well. And I love a good layer one, potential to get to good market caps. So that's another one. It's basically the same ones that I've been talking about are the ones that I still like. I consolidated into my, now is a good time if you're unsure of something and if you don't like it as much as something else, now is a good time to rotate into your high conviction plays and be selective. And I've even done that and taken losses on some things and lock in those losses and I can write them off against future earnings, right? So I want to be holding my highest conviction plays, accumulating them. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I sold off some of my lower conviction stuff and I rolled them into my highest conviction plays. And that's what I'm focused on. HG in the house. Thanks, brother. Hit the like, yes. Ron was going to come up here for 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know that he's available. But if he wants to come up, invitations out. Yeah, he said he'll be here in about 20 minutes. So we'll hear from Ron a little later. Always good to hear his thoughts on the market. Let's go. Season 3 OG. Short term is definitely bearish. But when you zoom out, all the way out and realize Bitcoin used to be 1 cent, now is 60K, there's really no logical debate. Yeah, exactly it. It's all relative. And the thing is, you don't want to be in a position. I think now is a good time to DCA. You might not get the best price, right? Maybe, and I said that, I had people asking me, should I buy Tectum at $6 and $7? You wanted to buy it at $20, right? People were, when it was up here, and I'm just using this one as an example. It goes for any alt that you love or like, that you believe in. You wanted to buy it. You were waiting to buy it at 20. And now it's down here. I try not to get greedy to the downside, right? Because we all know the market's going to turn. And if it doesn't turn, if Bitcoin for some reason doesn't move, then we never had a chance, right? But unless Bitcoin breaks below 40K, this is a very bullish, we're in a bull market confirmed, right? And if your long-term thesis is you're going to get alt season, all right, if you buy Tectum or Naka or Miria or AGI, pick your favorite alt. If you buy it at a certain price and it goes down 20%, if you buy it on a red day, the mistake will be forgiven when the market turns, right? I liken it to, in the bear market, I was buying Solana every week. I bought Solana at $30. I bought it at $25, $15, $8. Sometimes I bought it at 25 and it went back down to $18. But that was fine. That was okay because my long-term thesis was that we were going to get out of the bear market and Solana was going to take up 20% market cap of Ethereum and it would, do what it's done. And that worked out. And looking back on it, I don't care that I bought it at 25 and it went to 18. And I try to have that mindset. I have that same mindset now. If, Tectum is 496 and it goes down to 450 and I bought it at $6. So my last big buy was at $6. I don't care that it's down 20% right now, because in my mind, we're going to get back to the previous all-time high and we're going to go past it, right? So it's about having, the conviction in the market and not getting shaken out, because oftentimes what will get people out of this market is time. They will use time to capitulate people, make you question, is this a bull market or is it a bear market? Was I wrong? Is this coming back? And when you start asking those questions and I'm seeing signs of that, that means that I think that the end is near, right? That we're getting closer to seeing a turn in this market. I do believe that. Whether that happens for alts right away, Bitcoin obviously will run first. Benjamin Cohen, who, smart guy, he's been right on some things, he's been wrong on some things. He was right on Bitcoin dominance, right? And he was right that alts would bleed after the halving. And he called it in April, right? And he's been wrong last cycle. And this is what I'm saying. No one's going to be right 100% of the time. Last cycle, he said that he thought it would be like an elongated cycle, that like it would be that we would get past these 4-year cycles kind of, and Bitcoin and alts would continue to run. And he was wrong. This time he was right. Right? Bitcoin dominance would get back to 60, 63%. I think we're at 57%, and alts would be hit hard. And he was right. So he revisited his thoughts and he said, now the question is, does this take us? So alts have dropped 40% from their March highs. Now the question is, does it take 6 months or 9 months from March? So if it's 6 months, then it's September, which is soon. If it's 9 months, then it's December. But he believes by the end of the year, I'm in agreement. I think that fourth quarter this year will get this ball moving, and people who have accumulated good positions in good projects, in good sectors, right? It's important that you're in the right sectors. And for me, it's about having exposure. I want to hit all the sectors, right? I have my RWA play is mostly RIO. I've got Mint Layer, which taps into that also. I've got my AI plays. I've got my gaming plays. I've got my memes, because I think that you can't sleep on the memes. And I think you're going to see a meme super cycle this year. 10% of the top 100 coins are meme coins. That's a lot. And they're going off like, they're more and more being created every day. But if you find good blue chip memes, and we could talk about some of them later, they're going to do well, and you're going to make a lot of money. Ron says, Ben Cohen is wrong so much and obsesses over Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, which isn't a tradable chart, even a broken clock. It's true. He has been wrong a bunch of times. And he was right in this case, right, that alts would bleed. But you still got, if you were playing it right, and I made plenty of mistakes in that time, like when I was buying alts, I still had some great moves, right? I still bought AI Tech under 5 cents, bought, again, RIO at 10 cents, got in on a lot of these super early. Naka, I bought that early. Miria, bought that early. And so, again, if you listen to people who say stay completely away from alts at a certain time, you miss out on some things. You would have missed out on Brett, which I missed out on. Right? But there are a lot of moves to be made. Look at Ponky and a lot of things that have made a ton of money. Let's see what else we got here. Uno Sean in the house. What's good? What's good? Alts are looking juicy. Yes, sir. When others are fearful, be greedy. yeah, best time to accumulate. It's 100% right. Right, when people are scared, and I talked in previous streams about family members who were coming to me to buy. That ended up being the top of all of the the local top of this past alt run, was when my brother-in-law, my nephew was the top signal of everyone. He's been so bearish and afraid of crypto and talking shit about it. The minute he bought, everything went down. Right? But now, when they should be buying, they want no part of it. All right, so it's a good sign if normies are not have nothing to do with it right now. It's time to accumulate, and I do think now is the time. And I've been accumulating. Ethan, what's good? If you had 20,000 to invest in just one coin, would you pick Chuck or Medicaid? Remember, you can only choose one. Which one do you believe has the most? I can't answer that objectively. All right, I'm so closely. First of all, I love them both, but I'm so closely connected to Chuck. Now I'm speaking from the Chuck account on Spaces and whatnot, so I can't objectively answer the question. I will say that I like them both. Medicaid, and people have been asking me about Medicaid and if I still like it. Price is down, but if you look at all of gaming, it's consistent across the board. All of gaming is down. Gaming had an early run and has since, it hasn't quite recovered. And Medicaid was holding up really well relative to others. It was in this, 007 range. And it was holding that while Naka was slipping and all these others were slipping. And then it dipped back into 005, half a penny. My thesis has not changed on Medicaid at all. Now, one big question for Medicaid and all gaming projects is, will gaming rebound? I think it will. I think gaming comes back. I don't know if, I think AI will have its run first and maybe some other sectors. At some point, there will be a rotational play into gaming. I think we started seeing that just a little before alts collapsed. We started seeing signs of life in some of these gaming tokens, right? But then, the market bled out a bit. I think everyone I know is positioned in gaming. And that's a sign to me that the narrative is still strong. There will come a day when gaming does well again. The thing is that it's very cluttered. It's oversaturated. You have to choose wisely. I like Medicaid because it's an ecosystem. I'm not afraid necessarily of dilution, but it's better, obviously, if there's not going to be heavy dilution, and there's not. And I love Russell's leadership and the fact that he's still grinding and he's got plans. He wants to push this. He's got certain goals price-wise, and he's not afraid to say it, right? Where he wants this to be, he said if this doesn't hit $500 million market cap, that he'd be unhappy. And so I can get behind a project like that. That the CEO wants to win and is putting himself in position to win, partnered with Jamie King, which I think is super important for narrative alone, right? Migrated to base. So they're in the right place, and base is not, when liquidity floods into base, if Medicaid can position themselves as the Nakamoto or whatever of base network, then they're very well positioned. And they did that strategically, right? They went there with that in mind. And so, it's not PvP. And if you have Medicaid, you should want Naka to go to $5 billion market cap, $7 billion market cap, because the way these things work is that people look at things relative to other things. And so if Miria and Naka and some of these other ecosystems are doing well, you're going to look at something like Medicaid and say, this is the play because it's undervalued comparatively, right? And my thesis has not changed on Medicaid. On Chuck, I think Chuck is well positioned in the meme space. again, I'm very biased. I'm speaking from the Chuck. I'm a core community member. I speak in the from the Chuck official account now, but $2 million market cap, and Chuck has been holding there for a couple months. It's shown strength and resilience there, and it's battle tested, and it's on the radar of other people in the meme space. And it's tied to Ethereum. And when Ethereum does a 3x, Chuck will naturally do a 3x along with it. And I do think that it's going to do X's. Which does more? I don't know. But the thing is, I think that be positioned in high conviction plays amongst different sectors, and whatever that conviction falls in, right? It doesn't have to be the coins that I talk about. I only talk about the coins that I know a lot about, right? And use them as a point of context. So Ron is driving. Yeah, Caspa is a safe bet. And that's a thing also to consider, right? There are a lot of things to consider. Your goals, level of risk and safety that you want. If you want to turn, you can go in with a big bag of something and put into something relatively safe in crypto, right? Everything is risky. But in crypto, Caspa is relatively safe. Even a meme coin like Ponky is relatively safe because it's gotten confirmation from the market. It's built up to $170 million market cap. I bought Ponky all the way down here, and I sold it over here, right? It's one of my fumbles this cycle. I didn't go in hard or heavy, so it is what it is, and it's a lesson ultimately, and I'll be fine regardless. But my point is, you can go in with, if you had like $10,000 and you wanted to be safe, and Ponky's a meme coin, but you see what happened with a blue chip meme coin will go into the billions. And you see that with Brett, which is now just under $1 billion market cap, right? But look at Brett. I'd feel confident if I had like $10,000 and I threw it into Brett and this market ripped it. It's going to go to, I can see Brett at a $20 billion market cap plus 20 to 40 billion, right? So there are different ways to play the market, different levels of safety, different levels of risk management. For me, I see people who go all in on one thing, and I would never do that, because anything could happen that you don't know about that could, anything can go to zero in crypto, right? So things are relatively safe, but nothing is, they're all risky. So you have to be careful, but manage your risk differently. But everyone has a different risk appetite and different goals. And so, what I do with my bags might not suit you. And yeah, Rito. Yeah, absolutely. I love Resistance Dog. I have accumulated Rito. I do think it is one that potentially can get into the billions. Resistance Dog sitting at 40 cents, down from, it was at 120 million market cap at the high. Up here, nice retrace. This is in the accumulation phase. Nice. I think this is a buy. I've added. I've got a nice Rito bag, and this falls into the meme category. It's prospectively the number one meme coin that on the Ton Network. And that's the Ton Network is the guy who created Telegram, created Ton. It's a top 10 coin. It might be, a top 10 coin that most people never heard of. It's quietly gone into the top 10. It's number 8. It's got what's the market cap? $16 billion market cap. And we're at this point in the cycle. So will Ton Network get to 60, 70, 80 billion in a proper bull? I think so. And then you see what happens with the number one meme coin on a big network. They go crazy, right? So I do think that Rito is one that could get into the billions. And so I've got a nice bag of that. right? This is one that could, 100x and get to, even though it came from, this was just $1 million market cap in January, right? So sometimes you look at that and say, damn, I missed that first 40x. But if you had gotten in down here, you wouldn't have had the conviction to go big, right? So sometimes it's better to get confirmation from the market, to get legitimacy built out, to have conviction, to get in. Even Ponky, like I recently bought back into Ponky, because I think it'll 10x, 20x. And so one way that people psych themselves out is, if they miss the first move, they stay away from the next move. And that's a mistake. HG, I've been buying more AVAX and Chainlink. Yeah, those are great, safe plays that are going to print. So all good stuff. Just like the Caspa chart, ranked 21 with no tier 1 exchanges, 100%. But it is the roadmap of Kraken after Binance. Yeah. Caspa is a blue chip. It's going to be, I can see this being, top 10, top 5 token at some point. $4 billion market cap. And the chart is so strong. Look at the chart. This chart is so strong relative to all other charts, right? Even, the good ones. Look at like Sol. Well, Sol chart here. Let's look at the year. Sol chart strong, actually. No, it's just as, let's look at AVAX. Yeah. See the difference between the AVAX chart, which is still a great play. AVAX will do well. But you see the difference in strength between, something like AVAX and Caspa. Caspa's gonna, and I'm not positioned in Caspa, and I wish I was. There's still time to be. But it's gonna do well. Cash is the safest bet there is. Yeah, 100%. Easy 20x. Big up the MCADE crew. Yeah, we could talk about MCADE. I'll talk about, see, Ethan asked about OMI. We'll talk about that also. I'll get to all of your questions. I got a super chat from Maxwell, so I'll talk about this. All right. Beer money. Are you completely, thanks Maxwell for that. Are you completely out of OMI now? I am out on OMI, and I've sold. So for me, you can track my content. I was bullish on OMI last summer when they released the first bit of, soft staking. And then they announced that the VVverse was coming out and the first invites went out. Right. And I thought that they had finally turned a corner and the narrative and the picture was coming together. But, I gave it more time and, November came and there were nothing new on the VVverse. And in fact, Dan said, 2 weeks from now, in a fortnight, more invites would go out and then everyone would get in. Now here we are and it's July, it's August. It's been a year since the initial rollout, and mind you that this was supposed to be done years ago, but it's been a full year since the first invites went out and there was all that, excitement and enthusiasm. It's been 8 months since the last update on it when all invites were supposed to start going out in 2 weeks. And to me, the worst part of it is the lack of communication on it. And so, you give time, and I absolutely love the OMI community, love the VV community. I'm still a part of it, and I'm still rooting for OMI to do really well. But, this is my chance to make money. I try not, one of the mistakes I made was marrying a bag. I'm not emotionally attached to any bag. I will buy and sell, and it's a mistake if you do that, right? I made that mistake, and I asked myself, knowing everything, would I buy it now? And the answer to me was no, 8 months ago. And so when I asked myself that question, if I wouldn't buy it and I wouldn't tell people to buy it because relatively speaking, I like other things more than it now, then then I should move my money into those other things, right? And that's what I did. So unfortunately, they continue to struggle. And you know what? Fundamentally, I would say they're a bit stronger, right? Because they do have OMI to NFT did come out, but they've lost the narrative. I think that's a big problem because this whole space is narrative driven, right? This whole space runs on narratives. And when delays and coming up short on the technology side of things continues to happen and you lose your core community, it's hard to recover from that. And I think when you combine that with, even more importantly, is the macro NFT space. It's not there this cycle yet. And maybe it comes back. I actually think that's one of the biggest things for VV and OMI to succeed, this cycle, or to do well, money-wise. A lot of it has to do with the narrative of the NFT cycle. How will it come back? Will it come back strong? I'm not really seeing signs of, life there. I don't think NFTs come back the same as they did last cycle. I think this cycle, the degen money is in meme coins. If NFTs come back, I don't think they come back as strong as they did last cycle. So there's that. I think the pumpamentals on OMI are not there this cycle. And I think that they've lost the narrative. And it's a shame because they have they had such a good narrative, and they have such a good community who are still passionate. But, you look at the chart and it's hard to find one that's performed, objectively speaking, it's hard to find one that's performed worse. Where it's broken below its bear market lows. Most coins are still above their bear market. Like if you look at, I'm going to pull up Sand. I have no idea what Sand is doing, but oops. Oh, this recently broke down. 28. Yeah, so Sand also recently broke down between below the bear market low. If you look at ADA's been deadish. Still above it. Let me look at Mana. Just below it. This is a cycle. This is a narrative that was hot last cycle. Metaverse, NFTs, and, the narrative is different this time. And they've had their issues. For them, I think they need to deliver. And I don't know. I don't know if, I had an expectation or a hope that they could get back to, 008. I don't think they're getting new all-time highs. All right. I don't think they're breaking a penny. I think it would be hard to get to 008, which was big resistance last cycle. 008's like right here. That would be about a 20x. It's going to be hard. There's a lot of sell pressure on OMI when it comes up, because that's what happens on second cycle coins. So I've talked extensively on second cycle coins. It's more common than not. 85% of coins don't reach new all-time highs. Part of that is you have bag holders from the previous cycle who are down bad. And the longer you go, the heavier those bags get. And they look to sell. And then what happens is people front run run-ups, and it suppresses the price. So there are bigger and bigger walls of resistance in order to get those gains. different from a new coin that has nothing but clear and open skies ahead of it, right? Where, if you AGI or whatever, Delicium, any other new coin, if it goes into price discovery, everyone's in profit. But it's not the case here. You have people who are going to be down bad until it gets to 0.005, some people 0.008. And so those are my thoughts on it. I wish I was more bullish, but I always try to keep it real. And, those are my thoughts on OMI. Yeah, so Ethan, is OMI the only token that hit an all-time? So no, we saw that, I guess Sand did it just now, and Mana just broke below there, bull low, but they just did it. And it doesn't show strength in the chart. And so for me, when I'm investing, this is my money and I'm trying to make as much of it as possible. Right? I'm trying to make as much money as possible. I'm not trying to, what complicates it is community and, relationships and, that sort of thing. Sometimes you get blinded by that stuff. And the main question I ask myself is, would I buy this? And if I wouldn't buy it relative to something else, then I'm not going to bag hold it. Found Medicaid from this channel, and I'm liking what they are doing regardless of market scent. Yeah. Thanks, brother. And Medicaid is, I love their, their tournaments. They're partnering. They partnered with Chuck. They're partnering. They're likely to partner with other meme coins. They're looking to expand. And again, Russ is doing everything right. We'll see. Hopefully for Medicaid, it's about getting confirmation from the market, right? We need the gaming narrative to come back, which I think it will. And then just getting eyes on it. Let's see. We got let's go. What's good, Ron? Is that a shirtless Ron?
Yeah, I'm at the beach. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, I got headphones on.
All right.
Yeah, so I was taking notes of some of the things you were saying. Sorry, girls make you late for everything. But,
what's good, man? How you been?
I'm okay, man. I got a lot going on. I'm always busy. But, yeah, talking about some really good points, and especially at the start of the stream, when you're talking about, this cycle, we hit all-time highs before the halving, which is something that we hadn't done previously. But, when you look at previous market cycles and structures and things like that, it's really not a surprise that we're lingering here. The halving, it's not really a secret anymore, the Bitcoin halving. So a lot of people are trying to front run the halving, and the ETF news was out there and everything. But when you look at the previous cycle, when we broke up, Bitcoin went into price discovery and it broke the previous all-time high around 20K, in 2017, it didn't stay at 20K for long. It was at 20K for like 2 weeks. So whereas the last cycle at 2021, we stayed at 60K for a long time, twice. So it built up a lot more volume and price history at that level. So, it's not the same structure as it was before that. So it's really not surprising that we're staying here like this. And, like you say, and I say it a lot, if Bitcoin doesn't get into price discovery, then we never had a chance anyway,
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly right. So what are your expectations for, you think Q4 Bitcoin breaks out?
I hope so. It could still range a little longer. Last year we ranged for like 31 weeks before it broke out into that strong uptrend. Kind of a rule of thumb, like one of Wyckoff's rules of markets, is the longer that it ranges, the stronger the breakout will be. Now that also will go to the downside. If it broke out to the downside, that rule would still apply. But it's a balance. It needs this. It needs to change hands. And a lot of people that bought when it ranged, that period I was just talking about, if they sell at 100K instead of 60K, is going to bring the market down a lot more violently. So the more that it changes hands and gets out of people's hands that bought lower and gets into people's hands that are buying now. And okay, if you look maybe 4 or 5 months ago, 56K wasn't an attractive price, to where now a lot of people consider that the dip. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. You know, you get that change in hands, and that's good. And the longer it does this, you know, really the better. And the market's in a broad bear channel. You know, I think I like to say that news and events drive price movements, but TA and market structure sets the boundaries. You know, so you might get bearish news and it'll make price go down and stop being in such a tight range on like a daily basis. But if you look at it on the weekly, you know, it's in some kind of range or channel, and it still marks the bottom of that range, and that's where price will end up finding support at. And that's basically what we're seeing now. And you talked about rate cuts, and some of my thoughts on that as well are, because you see a lot of bears saying, well, rate cuts are bearish. And there's some chart where rate cuts happened and 18 months later, markets were at lows. Well, it's kind of the same concept I was just talking about, that rate cuts are good for markets. But they make markets go up. So it's a year and a half later, it might be at lows, because once they go up, people sell at some point, and then, the market's going to go down. So rate cuts are a good thing for markets. And, you know, hopefully when the rate cuts happen, that'll signal, you know, that we're going to start, you know, maybe breaking out of the range and going up. Maybe.
Now, I think that, you know, a lot of people point to the rate cuts, and, you know, there have been instances in the past where the Feds, you know, did rate cuts and then the markets collapsed, but that's because they were reacting too late, right? And them cutting rates signaled a broken economy, right? So, right, this is, you know, the Fed controls, you know, the overall economy. They have these levers and tools that they have, and one of them is rates. And so if the market perceives them cutting rates because the economy is broken, it'll cause a big sell-off. But, you know, if they, you know, have a soft landing, which, you know, hopefully this is what we're in for, and they're not too late and the economy is still strong and there's still runway ahead of us, it's a bullish catalyst, because it signals a loosening of economic policy and money flooding in, and then ultimately some stimulus.
The rate cuts, I mean, there are instances with just what you're talking about, but overall, rate cuts are a good thing. You know, it makes a risk off market, or risk on, however you want to say it, and, you know, rate cuts should be good. But I know there are some bears out there that point to saying that rate cuts are actually a bearish thing. You know, and talking about alts and, you know, buying them during the bear market, and now that how some of them are, you know, I always tell people or ask people, you know, it depends on what your goals are. And most people, their goals are to sell at the top of the bull market when retail's FOMOing in and stuff like that. So you can't win if you don't play, you know. So if you don't have any bags, you can't make any money. So, you know, those bear market prices, you know, those are obviously still good prices for most assets. If you bought things while prices were running up some, and now you're down on them a little bit, you know, I guess just take it as a little bit of a lesson learned. Like, if you're buying a pump, think of it like, I want to sell some portion of this at some point to cover myself a little bit. That's kind of a good strategy to have, because nothing goes up forever, obviously. You know, it has to be a balance. What gets bought has to get sold, or it's going to get bag held, you know. So, you know, that's something I try to tell people. If you're buying in a pump, maybe have a goal. I'm going to take, you know, 30% of this, I'm going to sell at a higher level, at a 2x or a 3x, or whatever the case is. And then you're still covering yourself a little bit, but you still got bags. But like we said, you can't win if you don't play, right?
100%. And you have to have a plan, and it's good to lock in those gains and remember what this feels like. People should remember what this feels like, because at some point we're going to be feeling the opposite. You'll be feeling euphoria, and then you're not going to want to pull the trigger to sell, because you're looking for things to keep going higher and higher, right? But eventually, you know, the game ends.
Yeah, exactly. So take some of these minor lessons learned now while things were running up. And in Telegram, these assets that we were up, you know, 10x on and things like that, I did put out, you know, I'm selling 5%, I'm selling 10%. So if I sell 10% of something that I'm up 10x on, that's basically my initial investment, right? And then the rest is, you know, don't want to say free money, but, you know, in a sense, you know.
Yeah, 100%. So in terms of alts, go ahead.
Yeah. And just like you talked about diversifying by sector, you know, I think that's a huge thing, especially when people ask me for advice on things or where to start, or I got $20,000 I want to put in the market. What do you do? And I say, look, write down all the sectors of crypto, AI, gaming, privacy, blockchain, RWA, meme, whatever. And then write a couple projects of each one you like. And that'll help you break it down and narrow things down to where, you know, what do I do with this $20,000 or $10,000 or whatever the case is, and kind of give you some structure. Going into this cycle, I like AI and gaming as the top two narratives. Now I feel like gaming's a bit oversaturated. I like AI as the number one narrative. I still like gaming, but I think you need to be selective with the projects that you buy in the gaming sector.
Yeah. Which ones do you like there?
Well, I like MEMES, obviously. They just do so much. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's not a guarantee, but they do so much. I know Russ, obviously, and he's just a workaholic. He just lives, eats, and sleeps. Like, how can I make this project more successful? So my top tier for gaming, I would say MEMES, Naka, and gosh, what was the third one? I put it on Twitter just the other day. Games for a living, and I like games for a living. And then if I had a second tier, I would say Myria, Playable Games, and gosh, I just had it.
Can't remember.
Yeah, GameSwift, exactly. Yep, GameSwift. Those would be like my second tier games. And you know, some of the other ones that I like is kind of value plays like Lit Labs and some of those. I mean, they still might do okay, but I just think the gaming sector is saturated. You know, I wasn't the only person that thought gaming would be bullish this cycle. I mean, gaming is still, I mean, it's a huge market, but the thing is, no one's really playing these Web3 games too much. Even the more successful projects. I mean, if adoption comes along, they could all be successful, and I think they'll all do fine during the market. But you know, I guess this is the advantage of now versus 8 months ago or 10 months, almost a year ago now. I'm taking a flyer on some of these projects when you can either hit the home run or go to zero. Now, I mean, prices are still low, maybe not as low as they were then. Some things are in that relative area, but you have a better idea of what the winners are. So to me, it's not from a risk reward standpoint buying some of those other ones I talked about, like Lit Labs, and taking a flyer on it. It's just the risk reward isn't there when I already have a good idea that Naka is going to be a winner. You know, why try to overcomplicate it, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Now, you know, now is the time to be picky. You know, back then,
yeah,
you know, Naka was running, it ran up to $3, whatever that was at. Like, I think it was like $200 million market cap. And then you get into the market cap hunting, which is fine in a bull run. When alts are going crazy, you can market cap hunt a bit. As long as you don't pick a rug, it's going to go up and do multiples, you know, in the short term. But when the water goes out, those get hit so hard, right? And so now is the time to be picky because everything is down. That's why now is the time to rotate. If you're holding something that you're not convicted in, you can, you know, you don't have to hold that. You can put that into something that you have more conviction in, that now it's a better entry. And then you can write the other one off as a loss if you took a loss on it.
Yeah, maybe if you bought something like that you were buying the dip on that you thought was like maybe not one of the strongest projects that we're talking about, but like, you know, you're looking for something that maybe hasn't pumped much as yet, or you're looking to get into other projects, and say because you bought the dip on that, maybe it's down 50 to 60%, but then something like AI tech that you feel is a likely winner, that's down like 70% from when it was at that time. In my opinion, it's a good idea to maybe allocate that, you know, into a project like AI tech or AGI or something like that, Paladin AI, that you have a better idea that you think would be a winner instead of one of those that you were taking a flyer on, buying the dip on, you know. Because if you look at when you bought that, the price of AIG or AI tech, if it was this then, you would have been like, oh my gosh, you know, what, you know, will it ever go back to that price for me to buy, you know?
Yeah. So what other coins do you like? Do you want to talk about some of those before you head off and get your suntan on?
Well, it's probably like seven here or something like that. I'm on East Coast time. But yeah, you know, we talk about sector, you know, in AI, I like AI tech, I like AIG, I like Paladin AI, I like Astra AI. I have the most money allocated to AI. Just talked about the gaming projects I like. I still like privacy. It's not as sexy of a narrative, but I still like mask. Nothing's changed fundamentally with mask. I like A0. That's kind of blockchain and privacy. I like that a lot. I mean, for mid kind of cap play, I like A0. RWA, I like RIO, Leox. Gosh, there's another RWA one. I can't remember what it was that right offhand that I like. Okay, and then as a little bit of a higher cap RWA play, I like Planet. The reason I like Planet is because they have Lionel Messi signed as an ambassador, and they're like a green project. UBXS or UXBS. That's the other RWA one I like. So those are 4 RWA plays. Then memes. I think some meme winners may still are yet to be released. I like Chuck, obviously. I mean, like you said, it's hard. Maybe it's hard for us to be objective about Chuck, but I feel I am being objective about Chuck. If you look at everything it has going on and the market cap, I do think it's attractive. So I like Chuck. I think Ponky will get up in the billions. I think that's one that can get up in the billions. So I think Ponky's a decent play. When you look at meme coins, you do want to look at the liquidity to market cap ratio. If it's thin, then a big sell, can really bring a 20 to 30% chop easily. So just know that. I mean, not that it won't recover and then keep going. That could still happen for sure. But just, have your expectations that meme coins can be very, very volatile. I think that Cock will get listed on major exchanges. When it comes to blockchain, I really like TET. I really like Caspa. I like Mint Layer. I think Caspa's, in my opinion, is the best play risk to reward and potential of what the project can do. And when you talk about winners, and I think Caspa looks strong. It's been in an ascending triangle for a long time, even like a high time frame, like a weekly time frame. So when that breaks out, and presumably to the upside, it could print some big gains. And I think somebody wrote in the comments even pointed out it's widely listed, but it's not on any like tier 1 exchange really. It's not on Binance or Coinbase or anything like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Well, someone had a comment down here. Let me see. Here he is. Ron looks like he came back from the future after the bull market and is at his island. He bought his days.
No, I think most people know I live in North Carolina, so I'm at the beach in North Carolina. I'm not at any exotic island or out of the country or anything like that.
Yeah. So your thesis has not changed on this market and where it's going?
Nah, I do think this might be the last time we see this kind of cycle and the great bull run. I do think that, but I still think it could be the biggest one. Or I think altcoins may, in general, be a little oversaturated. That's why I do think it's important to try to pick winners. I mean, altcoins will still outgain Bitcoin when the time comes, but the window is small, or relatively small compared to the market cycle. And that's what I talked about at the beginning of the stream, or when I came on, that if you look at if you really break down the market structure on a high time frame, it's no surprise, people try to front run the halving and the ETF news a little bit. And it took us up to where we made the all-time high, before the halving, which is the first time that's happened. But like I said, when you look left on the chart, we were here for quite a while last market cycle, twice. And that just wasn't the case the cycle before that. In 2017, the high, it was a true blow off top, to where last market cycle, it was more like a distribution at that level. And I think, it's hard to say what'll happen. Maybe it'll be a mix between the two. So far, the run up to this cycle so far, it has looked more like the 2017 bull run. But we'll just have to see. We'll have to see how it breaks out. The longer it ranges and if it breaks to the upside, the better chance we have of higher prices.
Nice. Do you have expectation of where Bitcoin's going?
Well, generally I don't like to say market cap type, are price targets. I'm a price action guy. I like to see what the price action tells you and react accordingly. But it's built enough market structure now. If you take that this is like a bull flag, matter of fact, I posted on Twitter when like a day or two before it dumped, I was like, we haven't even hit the 0.5 level of this move, of this leg up, and that is exactly where the market bounced off of 2 days later, was the 0.5 fib level. So if you take the measured move, if you're saying this is like a bull flag, that and the second leg up started at 49K, like say that's the low, that you would take the next leg from for the measured move off this bull flag. If that is indeed what forms, then that takes you to about 150K, and I think that's a very reasonable target for Bitcoin this cycle.
Yeah, I think that's kind of in line. 120, 150 is kind of like my guesstimate. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, I'll think like 150, and then I'll shave some off, because if that's the consensus, sometimes you fall short, right? Like last cycle, a lot of people were honed in on 100K, and you don't quite get there, right?
Yeah. When there's a target that everyone's saying, it almost never gets hit. And I think that number will develop as the cycle continues. I know you were talking about Benjamin Cohen earlier. I think the worst market callers on Twitter are obviously Capo, and then Crypto Savvy. Yeah, they're the worst. They're obviously
Capo's the worst.
Capo's the worst. I said Capo first.
Everyone agrees, man.
And then Savvy, Crypto Savvy. Both those guys have blocked me, which I take as a badge of honor. And Ben Cohen, I put him as like just below that. Now, he's a super smart guy. He's smarter than me at 99 out of 100 things in this world. He would absolutely beat me in a spelling bee or math competition. Yes. But he doesn't know how traders look at the market. And it's obvious in his videos and how he talks about things. And he obsesses over charts that aren't even tradable and thinks there's some kind of like magic elixir behind it or something. A lot of this is simpler than you think. And I don't mean it's simple to call the market and know what's going to happen all the time. But traders run the market at the end of the day. These guys, that's what their job is. They're going, to work, if you want to call it, every day, and they're trying to extract money off the market, and they're looking at certain things, and they're who drive the market. And he has no clue how they look at things. He doesn't have a clue. One of his whale video games, whale game videos, he was talking about. That's when it really kind of hit me that he doesn't have a clue what traders are looking at. He was acting like this whale was making these oddball moves with his huge Bitcoin stack. And if you looked at what he was saying, the guy was using 1% of his account to buy and sell at the bottom and top of ranges, which is exactly what a trader would do.
Yeah, 100%. And you always got to take things with a grain of salt. What people say, I've not seen one person call everything right. You know what I mean? People are going to get things wrong, but I think long-term, if your long-term thesis is right and you execute properly in terms of taking your profits, you're going to do well.
Yeah, nobody's always right for sure. I've been very good at calling Bitcoin, but, I didn't sell after the halving when these alts pulled back. I wasn't looking to sell anything. And that's just kind of like, you set in this long and we've been waiting for the halving. And we know the halving isn't like a magical event like New Year's Eve and like it's going to shoot off,
Yeah.
But it's kind of the like landmark we're looking to for the bull market, the halving, it's kind of what we're looking out to. So I didn't stick around for all this time to start selling stuff after the halving to try to sell things and buy back lower,
Yeah, 100%. Because then you run the risk of, it also depends on your personality and whatnot. Like myself, I get anxious if I feel like, I sold, if we're just getting started and then, you sell something and then it runs up and then you lose your position or whatever. So it depends on your mindset, your skill set, and all these things. For me, I'm like a buy and hold kind of guy, and build out my position and then ride it off into this market.
Yeah, and it always depends on what your goals are. And I try to tell people not to buy into the buy the dip mantra, because when things are going up, the first red candle, these calls are out and influencers are out there saying buy the dip, buy the dip. Look at the market structure. Look at the market structure and don't just blindly throw your money out there saying buy the dip. If you think it's going to enter a range or a channel, then let that market structure form and buy the bottoms of those channels. And DCA, it doesn't mean you're going to buy the bottom price, Now, I have caught a lot of bottoms lately. When I put zones out and set limit orders there, like NACA and RIO and some of these things, and not that they were huge buys, but I put limit orders there, and those wicks that came down into those zones, I wasn't the only one. That's why traders run the market. That's what they were looking at, and that's why they ended up being wicks on the weekly. When they hit those zones, they were bought up aggressively.
Yeah, 100%. So you're DCAing now into alts. That's the plan for you.
Sure, man. I'm full degen mode. I'm not here for new car money. I'm here for retire my family money. So if it never goes into price discovery, I would rather lose than not play and miss the bull cycle. And that's why I put a lot of time and resources and effort into trying to find these good projects and what I think is going to be a winner, and research the tokenomics and the team and try to follow them best I can. And sometimes you got to cut losers, and I know some people, sunk cost fallacy, and some people have a problem with that. And, I know talking about one project up here in the comments, I don't want to say anything and get hate, but, sometimes you have to be objective with yourself. And, if it's not doing well, you just, hey, maybe take the hit and put it into something that you think will win.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, there shouldn't be any, emotional attachment to anything that you hold. You should be looking to take care of yourself and, maximize your gains, because this opportunity is not here forever, right? Like you said, maybe this is the last great run before regulation kicks in and, other things, external factors limit the, up the,
and another reason I say that is because the drop in the halving next time, unless Bitcoin holds a really high price during the bear market, the halving won't mean as much from a supply demand standpoint. You know what I mean? Because it'll get halved and it'll just be like one Bitcoin, a little over one Bitcoin. So that gets cut from the halvings. That, along with the ETF adoption, I feel it'll kind of fall into the greater stock market, and other markets, and just kind of go with the flow of them.
Be more normalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which maybe is a good thing.
Well, let me run, Danny. Thanks for having me on, and great stream and great spaces today for Chuck, and great roundtable yesterday as well, man. You guys really put out just so much good info. And that's one of the things I'm talking about with Chuck. I don't see other meme coins this open about what they're doing, and always giving updates and all these things.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Thanks for coming on stream here from the beach.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me. Sorry I was late.
Oh, good, bro. You came without a shirt. Everyone enjoyed that.
All right, man. Well, I'll see you guys later.
See you, brother. All right, there we heard from Ron, little special guest. It's always great to hear his insights into the market. He understands a lot in terms of, price action, charts, and he has great perspective. So thank Ron for coming through. Let me hop back into the comments. I'll go through your comments. We'll chat some more. I sadly sold HG. What's good? All my OMI moved it into AVAX. I found Danny. Thanks to OMI. So, yeah. You know what? Listen, man. Some things you buy and hold, and some things work out, some things don't work out. Maybe it works out in the end. Maybe it goes back up. People regain some losses. Regardless, everything is a lesson, right? And I've had so many lessons, so many things that I've done wrong, and so many things that I've done right. Right? I talked earlier about buying Ponky at a $30 million market cap, selling it, not buying Brett. Sometimes you buy something and you hold it longer than you should, and things like that. Everything is a lesson, and we're all just trying to do the best that we can and make some money here in a short window of opportunity that doesn't come, right? There's no other place in the world where you can make this amount of money in this short period of time. And in order to do that, though, oftentimes you have to lose money and learn lessons and learn things the hard way. We've all taken our L's. I don't know, and it's very rare that you find someone who comes in and successfully, wins in crypto on their first go around, right? Oftentimes it's your second cycle, your third cycle, where you get a grasp on things and fully understand how this market moves and how to make moves within the market. So all good. Walrus, what's good? Do I still like TET? Yeah, I still like TET. I covered that a little earlier. Nothing has changed in terms of that except for the price for me. Still, it's first cycle coin, layer 1, fastest blockchain. Love that narrative. Bitcoin scaling solution. Love that narrative. And so, we'll see how it plays out. Rug Doctor Mohammed Siddiqui, what's good, brother? It's feeling like old times here in this chat with all these familiar faces. MVE, the only thing that is going to pump OMI are exchanges, Tier 1, Binance, Coinbase, etc., FOMO and narrative. The rest is BS. So yeah, Coinbase is not coming, and I don't see Binance. It's very expensive to get on those. I don't think it's going to happen, but could be wrong, but we'll see. I mean, if the NFT narrative was right and they were able to execute and improve sentiment, but profit revenue tokens, PRTs inside of the index token on Coinbase, is that an RWA token? I'm not sure what that's referring to. Old projects aren't all bad. Some have been building solid plays. Yes, and that's true. Some have. So that's the key. The old projects that continue to do well are the ones who've built effectively, who still maintain their strong sentiment, but they're rare, right? They still exist, but they're rare. Do you think Coinbase and Mint Layer will merge? I don't think so, but I haven't looked in depth, Beehive, to that partnership. I need to do that. But I love the marriage of Mint Layer and Tectum. I think it's one that makes sense. Both of them are obviously, Mint Layer is like, kind of like building on top of Bitcoin infrastructure play, tokenizing things, using like tapping into like Bitcoin liquidity to tokenize real world assets. It plays well with Tectum. Both small market caps. I think Mint Layer is at like a $20 million market cap or something. It will pump hard, but the cost opportunity of holding this coin has been a big shit. This is another thing is, opportunity cost. Getting sidelined, having money locked up somewhere that, does a 5x, maybe a 10x versus putting that into your highest, strongest convicted and, getting potential 20 to 100x's, right? So, I don't buy, like, Chainlink is great, right? But for me, I think that there are small caps that are going to outperform. So I'm always looking at things like relatively speaking. And so if I think that, something will only do a 5x from where it's at, I'll move it into something else. That's not a knock on Chainlink. I think that a portfolio should be balanced, right, with safe bets. I'm just using as an example. Saucy Sausage, what's good? Chuck eats dips with ranch Doritos. Nice Chuck joke. Chuck is the next king of base. Objectively speaking, I think MCADE has more upside potential than Chuck, but I obviously love Chuck. There you go. Ron answered that. Danny, could you talk a little more about Chuck? What kind of developments are you focusing on for the upcoming quarter? Love the community vibe. So Chuck is it's community-driven thing, and there are a lot of community engagement. There's a lot coming up and a lot that's been going on. So Chuck recently had a partnership with Medicaid where they listed Chuck in their play to earn tournaments. There were 2 tournaments lasting over 2 weeks So there could be more in store there in terms of relationship with MCADE down the line. So we'll see how that one plays out. Otherwise, there are a bunch of initiatives and community. So meme coins are all about community engagement, because obviously community drives, right, the whole narrative and the project. So we've got Chuck Brew. We just partnered. One of the community members linked up with Meta Brew Society to create Chuck beer that people can buy using Chuck token. So more partnerships like this is what you can look for. We got a Chuck game on the app that's in beta, again, built by a community member. It's called Chuck Stack. So you can use Chuck in there. It's play to earn. We're just working out some back end things on the leaderboard. So a bunch of developments like this, and then partnering with people in the meme space. So we just partnered with Soka Data, who hosts the spaces, and potentially partnering with Coles and things like that down the line. So a lot going on, and it's been a fun ride. It's been fun working alongside a whole bunch of people, as a community. It's at 100% API staking, but after 1 month, it gave a 10% return. So yeah, because it's 100% APY. So that's over the year, you're getting 100%. So it would make sense that you're getting 10% after a month, right? Perth. So it's not like your monthly return will be 100%. APY is your return over the whole year, 365 days. So that makes sense, which is a great return, by the way. And that's for mint layer, I think you're referring to. And you're not going to get that return. That's going to diminish as more and more people stake, right? Keep that in mind. So most things, I think, like Cardano, Sol, do like 4 to 7% APY. Is there, what they give out on staking rewards? It's a dynamic number dependent on how many people are staking. But 100% has been amazing for mint layer for those people who are staking. What's good, Ryan? Token with Marvel, Disney, etc., which makes an actual product and profits, is a scam, but a dog coin. Oh, no, look, you know what, Ryan? This space is, first of all, narrative driven. And in crypto, a dog coin went to $70 billion last cycle, Dogecoin. The rules of play in crypto are different. One of the things I like very much about OMI was that they had these partnerships and real world revenue. You could quantify their revenue. But fundamentals and fundamentals are two different things, right? You can have real world revenue, but if you lose control of the narrative, it becomes an issue. And, frogs have been outperforming everything. Pepe, Chinese Pepe, Brett. So it might not make sense, but you have to play within the confines of the rules and, of the space, and understand the space and what moves price. Rugrat, exactly, just buy Chuck on base. Profit monsters. So many NFT projects and marketplaces have died or have zero. Yeah, and that's one of the things that, if for some reason there was a huge narrative coming back with NFTs and digital collectibles, Vivi, would be well positioned possibly in there. But, when you see Immutable shutting down their marketplace because there's zero volume, when you see the volume on OpenSea, when you look at Google Trends, and let's pull it up. Give me a second. Let's look at This is, let's go for, so this is Google Trends on the NFT space. This kind of looks like the VV chart, the OMI chart. And so oftentimes you can talk about fundamentals and, left and right, but if the narrative is not there, it doesn't matter, right? It's not going to matter if the sector is dead. And so I think that a lot of, VV's future success, and that goes for McFarland. Look at McFarland. They're not, Cryptoys, they're not, none of these guys are burning down the house. Or VV's doing better than both of them. But look at the chart. Look at the NFT state of NFT, Google searches. Unless that comes back strong, I don't know that any of those guys have a real chance to reclaim, what they had last cycle. And then, you combine that with lack of development and negative sentiment, it's an issue. VV is number one by far, but and exactly right. But for VV, I've always said that what they should have focused on was user retention, and the low-hanging fruit is keeping your consumers, your current consumers, satisfied, and bringing back people who have left but still like the product, right? Still like the community. But they didn't quite hone in on that, right? They kind of they didn't make the necessary adjustments in communication and delivering on things that people really cared about. Nice. Married OMI for almost 3 years at the sell when AVAX and MCADE price got lower. OMI needs a truck collectible. It hit late last cycle. Who can say it won't this one? There were loads of people thinking meme coins were not going to come back in the hard. Yeah, and again, Ryan, no one knows for sure what's going to happen, right? So this is not to say what's going to happen. No one knows for sure what happens. You just got to put you're at a casino basically, and you're putting your chips on the table, right? You're placing your chips on the table, and where do you place your chips? And that's, a question that everyone has to answer for themselves. And there's no right or wrong answer. We'll know in hindsight, looking back. But, I don't get emotional or upset about, people not liking projects that I'm in or liking projects that I'm in, etc. And I want everyone to win. Hold. Every RNT Medicaid project is at near all-time lows. Will have its time near end of cycle. This is Dino Lang with a new name, Bearded Pokey Trainer. Good guys right here. Oh, thanks for the stream. Thanks for coming through, Dino. Appreciate you. Ron looks like he came back from the future. We saw that one. What's RIO's circulating supply? There seems to be some confusion. Yeah. So don't look at coin market cap. That will tell you that it's at a $7 million market cap. The real market cap is about 50 million. The dilution will be about 10% year over year from what I remember. So it's not crazy dilution. So if you want to look at it in terms of adjusted market cap, you could say it's like a $55 million market cap instead of a 50, taking into consideration 10% dilution. But coin market cap often has wrong information. Danny, have you seen that Nestor? Yeah, he's quitting. His tweet about missed potential and internal structural issues is quite concerning. Sure, I did. Here it is. Wait, what the? This is Nestor's tweet. So first and foremost, no one knows what went on in terms of Nestor, if he was fired, if he quit, if he was a good, how he performed at his job and all these other things, right? So, but, I wouldn't say it's not, I don't know if it's like necessarily like overly damning, but it's not a good thing, in my opinion, to now be left without a CTO after, he took over about 12 or 13 months ago, whatever it is. And now they're moving on to another one, which will be another transitional period added on top of the fact that they've had a hard time getting things rolled out as it is. Now you're transitioning to a new CTO. But, from his perspective, he's throwing some shade in here, it looks like. It's been a journey full of learnings that I will try to unpack. We had some great achievements adopting modern software architecture and practices, but unfortunately, a lot of potential has also gone unrealized due to structural issues. So I guess he's talking about the structures and the systems within Vivi as an organization, saying that he wasn't happy with that stuff. And if you remember when he first came on, he retweeted a fake Reese account where that was talked about outsourcing to people overseas or whatever and throwing shade. And he retweeted that, which in hindsight maybe is telling. But, he's pointing to, from his perspective, structural organizational issues that plague them, which again, who knows? The opportunity at hand for the company remains intact, but there are some important jobs to be done to realize its true potential. So again, this says to me that, if things don't change, they won't realize their potential. There's no doubt that Vivi's strongest asset is the community. I've always agreed with that. Looking forward to contributing as a member from now on. And then in the comments, he went back and forth with people. So again, I don't think it's a good thing for them. But, we don't know exactly what went on. We'll see. Michael says you need to type all these letters, what they trade under, when someone like me haven't any idea of those companies. Sorry. I know there's a lot of information sometimes, especially when Ron's on and he's spitting things out. Pixel in the house. What's good? Great discussion. Always fun to research the best plays in each sector and place your bets. Hard work. Correct. And you're not going to catch them all, and that's okay. And maybe you lose out on the biggest winners, and that's okay too. I missed out on Caspa. I didn't buy Brett, but I got in on some other things that I think are going to do well. And so you have to be okay. You can't catch them all. As long as you make good money, you'll be good. So if you have any specific questions, Michael, I'm sure we can answer some of them. Yeah. But they trade. So a lot of these I buy in on DEXs, decentralized exchanges, or a small exchange like MEXC. What's good, Alex, in crypto in the house? Candy emailed me a $10 coupon to come back. Hard times out there. Hard times. My opinion on IMX shutting down their marketplace. OpenSea only had their marketplace to pop from, whereas IMX is building partnerships with countless projects. Yeah, so IMX also has, they're not just focused on the marketplace. So I think it's bullish for IMX to focus on building. Yeah. Also, I think all that Vivi really needs for onboarding new users is a referral plan. Get a free collectible. I think it's hard to onboard new users when a drop drops in price 50%, really quickly. When demand is outpaced by supply. There are some basic laws that run things, and it's supply and demand. And I've always said that VV is kind of oversaturated their market, and it's a problem, right? And it's like an ever expanding universe, which is more and more and more and more product, but your user base is shrinking. And so it's hard, right? And that's why I think early on, a year ago, et cetera, when they were expanding their edition sizes, they should have been shrinking them. And they were too late to reduce their edition sizes. It leads to an oversaturation of a market, and then things drop in price. And like it or not, there's nothing to do with these things yet, right? So either you need something like the VVverse that's engaging, that people can go to and at least do something with their stuff, have a flex that other people can visit. Otherwise, it's a money game, and the majority of people are here to make money. And if the price gets cut in half and continues to go down, people are less incentivized to buy. So, it's an issue. Part of that is macro. Part of it is how they dealt with supply demand over, the last year or so, especially coming off of that hot, they were in a bubble. And then they kind of drained the market of liquidity by hyper-inflating edition sizes. And then people got wrecked. Thanks for your time, Danny. Keep it up. Good bull run for everyone. Let's get it. There's a lot of runway in front of us. And if you stick around, as long as Bitcoin does its thing, we're going to make money. What on earth happened to DJT? Oh, man, had a massive bag. One day, wake up. So someone sold off a huge, he full clipped a bag. A whale who had 20% supply, sold it all in one full clip. And this is what happened right there. So someone full clipped 20% of the supply. I had gotten out around here, so I didn't get this. I didn't get right. I had a couple $1,000s in here, and this was a risky play because this was like either high reward or get wrecked. Rumors behind it were like Barron Trump founded it, etc. But yeah, it's a dangerous game out there. Be safe. And good luck to everyone. I'll try to do streams regularly, at least once a week, try to get some momentum back. Thanks for everyone who came through. We did an hour and 40 minutes. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. See you all in the next one. Peace.